The stars were silent that day. Out beyond the Vega Rim, 3 human exploration ships moved slowly through space. Their silver hulls glowed under the light of distant suns. These ships, Aurora, Pathfinder, and Endeavor, were on a peaceful mission. They carried scientists, engineers, and explorers who dreamed of discovering new worlds. For months, their scanners picked up nothing but the quiet hum of the galaxy. But that peace ended without warning. From the darkness, a fleet appeared, huge, sharp-edged, and glowing with crimson lights. They were the ships of the Zorathian Empire, one of the most feared forces in the galaxy. The Zorathians were tall reptilian beings known for their pride and cruelty. To them, conquest was a language and mercy was weakness. On the bridge of the lead dreadnought, Admiral Kareth stood tall in his armor, his golden eyes fixed on the small human convoy ahead. He found them almost amusing, fragile metal shells floating like insects. "Prepare the weapons," Kareth ordered. His voice was calm but cold. "Let this be quick. The humans need to learn their place." Across the void, inside the Aurora, Captain Amelia Grant looked at her radar in disbelief. The Zorathian fleet covered half the screen. Dozens of warships against 3 small explorers. Are they attacking? Her communications officer asked in shock. Amelia's jaw tightened. "I think so. Open a channel. Maybe we can reason with them." The message went out, a calm greeting and offer to talk. The reply came seconds later, a blinding flash of light. Plasma bolts streaked across space, tearing into the human ships. The Pathfinder was hit first, its hull ripped open by the impact. The crew scrambled to seal compartments, alarms blaring. The Endeavor tried to maneuver, but another blast struck its engines. In less than 2 minutes, the small convoy was crippled. On the Zorathian command deck, Admiral Kareth smiled. "Weak, just as expected." He sent a transmission directly to the human survivors. "This is Admiral Kareth of the Zorathian Empire. You are surrounded. Surrender your vessels. Resistance is meaningless." The human bridge was filled with smoke and sparks. Yet through the chaos, Captain Amelia stayed calm. She wiped blood from a small cut on her forehead and looked at her crew, frightened, silent, waiting. Then, to everyone's surprise, she laughed. At first, it was just a small laugh, a short breath through her nose. But it grew louder, freer. Her crew stared at her like she had lost her mind. But then one of them smiled. Then another. Within seconds, the whole bridge was filled with laughter, bright, strange, unstoppable. The communication officer turned on the transmitter. The sound of laughter traveled across the open channel, echoing through space. Admiral Kareth froze. What is that sound?" he asked, his voice tightening. "Sir, it's the humans," one of his officers said.
"They're
Laughing? Laughing?" Kareth repeated. "At us?" "Yes, Admiral. They seem to be enjoying this." Kareth's tail flicked with irritation. To him, laughter was a sign of disrespect, a direct insult. "Open the channel," he barked. The screen flickered to life, showing the face of Captain Amelia Grant. Despite the smoke behind her and the flickering lights, she looked calm, almost amused. "You think this is funny, human?" Kareth demanded. "Your ships are destroyed. Your people are dying." Amelia's lips curved into a grin. "You'll find out soon enough, Admiral. We humans have a strange sense of humor." The line cut. Silence followed. Kareth stood still for a moment. He didn't understand what he had just witnessed. Were these humans insane, or did they know something he didn't? Either way, he wanted this finished. "Destroy the rest," he ordered coldly. But when the Zorathian cannons fired again, something strange happened. The human ships didn't run or hide. Instead, they turned on their external speakers and broadcast laughter. Loud, joyful, echoing laughter that filled the comms. It was so unexpected that several Zorathian gunners hesitated, unsure whether to fire or not. One young Zorathian officer asked nervously, "Admiral, what if this is some kind of trick?" Kareth glared at him. "It's noise." Nothing more, but the laughter continued, steady, fearless, and almost musical. On the Aurora, Amelia stood at the viewport watching the Empire's massive ships surround them. She felt no fear anymore, only a strange pride. Her crew, though wounded and exhausted, still smiled. "They want us to be afraid," Amelia said softly. "But fear is exactly what we won't give them." "Captain," one of her officers asked, "why are we laughing?" "Because they expect us to cry," she replied. "Because they think we're broken. But laughter means we're still alive." Across the galaxy, Earth received the distress call. And the laughter. Human news networks picked it up instantly. Within minutes, billions of people heard it. Videos spread everywhere. The Zorathian fleet attacking and the humans responding with nothing but laughter. The reaction was immediate, but not what the Empire expected. People didn't panic. They didn't weep. They laughed too. Comedians made jokes. Memes flooded social media, and humans everywhere turned fear into humor. They hit our ships? One late-night host said. Guess they just wanted to see what human entertainment looks like up close. Another joked, Careful, Zorathians, laughter is contagious. Soon the entire planet joined in. Humanity had turned tragedy into unity. Meanwhile, in the Zorathian capital, Emperor Thalrock watched the footage in disbelief. The laughter seemed to echo through the grand hall. His advisors bowed nervously, waiting for his command. What madness is this? The Emperor hissed. They mock our might? They seem unaffected by fear, my lord, one general said carefully. The Emperor's claws tightened on his throne. Then we will teach them fear. Prepare the fleets. If they want to laugh, let them laugh as their worlds burn. Back in the Vega Rim, the human survivors repaired what they could. The Aurora barely held together. Power was low, supplies were gone, and they had no reinforcements yet. But the laughter hadn't stopped. At night, the crew gathered in the dim light of the mess hall, sharing stories, jokes, and smiles. Every chuckle reminded them that they were still human, still alive. Amelia looked around at her crew, tired, wounded, but laughing. She realized something powerful had been born that day. The Empire thought laughter meant weakness. They were wrong. It was strength. It was defiance. It was the sound of humanity refusing to surrender. As the Aurora drifted toward the nearest relay station to send another message to Earth, Amelia recorded one final transmission. Her voice was calm and confident. To any human ship receiving this, we survived. The Empire struck and we're still here. They can break our ships, but they can't break our spirit. Remember this. We laugh because we endure. When the message reached Earth, it spread faster than any weapon. Across every colony, every outpost, every human heart, the sound of laughter became a symbol. The Empire had started a war. But humanity had already decided how to win it. Not with fear, not with surrender, but with unstoppable laughter. The news spread faster than light. Within hours after the attack, the human network relays carried the message from Captain Amelia Grant across every colony and ship in the solar systems. Her laughter, clear, fearless, and echoing through static, became the most replayed sound in the galaxy. Children laughed with her. Soldiers laughed with her. Even the wounded in hospital beds found strength in that strange, joyful sound. On Earth, massive crowds gathered in public squares, watching the footage projected on giant screens. The image of the burning ships, Aurora, Pathfinder, and Endeavor, might have been heartbreaking, but the laughter turned sorrow into something powerful. It wasn't denial. It was defiance. No one could explain it logically, yet somehow, it united them. In the United Human Council chamber on Luna Station, leaders from every human nation sat in emergency session. The large hall buzzed with tension. Screens displayed the last message from Amelia's ship. Her words, "They can break our ships but not our spirit," echoed again and again. Chairwoman Li Wen, an older woman with calm eyes, stood at the center podium. "Admiral Kareth believes he destroyed our will," she said, her voice steady. "Instead, he has given us something far stronger. Hope and laughter. They will expect us to retaliate with fear. We will respond with something they cannot understand." A young military officer stood up. "With respect, Madam Chairwoman, our fleets are outnumbered. Their technology is superior. We need stronger weapons," Li Wen nodded. "We will build them, but we'll also build something else. Unity. Our greatest weapon is not the gun, it is the human heart." Her words were met with silence at first, then applause. Something had shifted that day. Humanity was not broken. It was awakening. In a quiet studio on Earth, a popular comedian named Leo Mendez sat at his desk staring at the camera. His show, The Galaxy Tonight, had millions of viewers every evening. This time, though, his jokes carried new meaning. He looked directly at the lens and said, "So the Zorathian Empire thinks they can scare us. They blow up our ships and expect us to cry. Sorry, Admiral Kareth, we don't cry easily. We laugh first, rebuild second, and win third. The audience burst into laughter and applause. Leo smiled and added, They might have plasma cannons, but we have something far stronger. Bad jokes and stubbornness. Let's see them try to stop that. The crowd cheered. Across the world, people watched and laughed along. The sound traveled across space, through radio waves, through data streams, through hearts. It was no longer just laughter. It was a message. Far from Earth, in the Zorathian capital of Thalkor, the mood was very different. The grand throne room glowed with blue firelight. Emperor Thalrak sat on his throne, tail twitching with anger. Before him stood Admiral Kareth, head bowed. You destroyed their ships, the Emperor said slowly. Yet the humans mock us. Kareth bowed lower. They are irrational, my Emperor. They do not behave as any species we have conquered before. They laugh in the face of fear, Thalrak hissed softly. Then they must learn silence. Prepare the second armada. This time we erase them completely. As you command, Kareth said. But even as he turned to leave, he couldn't shake the memory of that human laughter. It haunted him. He had faced hundreds of enemies before, but none had laughed when death was certain. It made no sense. Later, alone in his quarters, he replayed the human transmission. The laughter filled the room. Soft at first, then growing louder, richer. He clenched his fists. It should have been meaningless noise, yet something about it disturbed him deeply. For the first time in years, Admiral Kareth felt uneasy. Meanwhile, the laughter continued to spread. On Mars Colony, miners played the recording during their work shifts. On Titan, scientists used it as their new alarm tone. On Luna Station, soldiers training for war marched to the rhythm of that same sound. Across human space, laughter became a symbol, not of foolishness, but of courage. The united human fleet began rebuilding at incredible speed. Engineers worked without rest, scientists developed new defense systems, and every citizen contributed. Instead of fear, there was excitement, determination, and pride. Children drew pictures of starships painted with smiling faces. Teenagers volunteered for space training programs. Even old veterans who had long retired returned to help in whatever way they could. Everywhere, the slogan appeared, Laugh loud, stand strong. In the city of New York, Captain Amelia's family watched the broadcasts with mixed emotions. Her younger brother Ethan sat quietly, staring at her image on the screen. She looked brave and calm, but he knew what it cost her. Their mother touched his shoulder gently. She's alive because she believes in what she's doing, she said softly. That laughter, it's her way of saying she's not afraid. Ethan nodded, eyes bright. Then neither am I. He opened his laptop and started designing posters for the movement. Bright yellow ones with the phrase, "They can't stop our laugh." Soon, his designs were shared across millions of screens. Within days, the phrase became a rallying cry. Back on the Aurora, still drifting near the Vega Rim, the surviving crew repaired what they could. The engines were weak, the air filters damaged, but their spirits were high. One of the engineers, Tessa, worked tirelessly to fix the communication dish. We can't just sit here, she said. We have to send another message. The galaxy needs to know we're still laughing. Captain Amelia smiled. Do it, let's make them hear us again. Tessa grinned. Should we send a distress call? Amelia shook her head. No. Send a message of joy. Within hours, a new transmission went out. Not a plea for help, but a recording of the crew laughing, singing, and telling jokes. They added one final line at the end. If you can hear this, smile. Because we're still here. Across the galaxy, the signal reached other races, traders, explorers, and small colonies. Many had never met humans before. When they heard the laughter, they didn't understand the words, but they felt the emotion. On distant worlds, aliens turned to each other and said, These humans, they're strange, but they sound brave. Even some of the Empire's border colonies intercepted the broadcast. For the first time, ordinary Zorathians heard human laughter, and something inside them shifted. It wasn't rebellion, not yet, but a spark of curiosity. Days later, in the depths of space, a secret human science station received an encrypted transmission from the Aurora. The damaged ship had managed to reach a communications relay. Amelia's voice came through clearly now. To command and to all humans, we are alive. The Empire can strike us again and again, but we will never answer with silence. We'll answer with laughter and progress. The more they push us, the more we'll rise. Tell Earth. We're ready, the scientists cheered. The message was sent directly to Luna Command and soon to every human world. The laughter grew louder, not just in sound, but in spirit. In response, human leaders decided to use laughter as more than just a message. They turned it into a weapon of unity. They launched Operation Echo, a project to use frequency-based sound pulses to strengthen communications and disrupt enemy signals. Engineers discovered that laughter tones contained unpredictable frequency shifts that could confuse certain Zorathian sensors. What started as a joke became a real tactical advantage. Within weeks, human ships began testing these echo waves. Whenever they transmitted bursts of human laughter, Zorathian scanners showed static or false readings. The Empire had no idea what was happening. It was the first time in history that joy became a form of defense. When Admiral Kareth heard reports of his ships losing radar contact near human sectors, he was furious. "Find out what they're doing," he shouted. His officers worked day and night but could not explain it. The signals they intercepted were filled with strange human sounds. Laughter, clapping, music, mixed with harmless frequencies that somehow jammed their systems. "They're turning noise into weapons," one officer whispered. Kareth stared out the window at the stars. "No," he said slowly. "They're turning emotion into power." On Earth, the laughter never stopped. Cities held public laughter nights where people gathered under open skies listening to the recordings from space. It became more than celebration. It was hope in motion. Humanity had learned something new that the Empire could not understand. Fear divides. Laughter unites, and that unity was now unstoppable. As the stars shimmered over the silent void, Captain Amelia Grant looked out through the cracked window of her ship. The blue glow of Earth shone faintly in the distance. She smiled softly and whispered, "They think laughter is weakness, but they'll soon learn. It's our greatest strength." And far beyond, in the cold halls of the Zorathian Empire, the echoes of human laughter continued to spread, invisible, unstoppable, and alive. Months had passed since the Zorathian Empire struck the first human ships. The galaxy was changing. Where once humans were seen as newcomers, now they were being watched closely by every species. They were strange and unpredictable, a race that laughed at war and smiled at fear. Their laughter had reached every corner of space, carried by signals, songs, and broadcasts. It became something powerful, something that even the mighty Empire couldn't silence. The Zorathian Emperor, Thalrak, had not forgotten his humiliation. He wanted revenge. Inside the Imperial War Hall, golden lights flickered on walls covered with banners of conquest. Admiral Kareth stood before the Emperor, his armor gleaming. "My Emperor," he began, bowing deeply, "our fleets are ready. We have doubled our firepower. We will strike their homeworld next." Thalrak's eyes narrowed. "And what of their strange laughter?" he asked quietly. "It spreads through our soldiers like a virus. Some of them imitate it." Kareth hesitated. "A minor issue, my lord. Superstition among the weak-minded." The Emperor leaned forward. "See that it ends. I want Earth turned to ashes. I want their laughter gone forever." Kareth nodded. "Yes, my Emperor." He left the throne room, but deep inside he felt a small unease. He couldn't forget that sound, the laughter that filled the comms after his first victory. It had haunted his dreams. Meanwhile, far from the Empire's core, humanity was preparing. In a massive underground base beneath Luna Station, scientists, engineers, and soldiers worked day and night. The air was filled with the sound of tools, machinery, and, surprisingly, music and laughter. Captain Amelia Grant, now recovered and promoted to fleet commander, walked through the busy corridors. Everywhere she looked, people were smiling despite the pressure. The tragedy of the first attack had not broken them. It had united them. She entered a lab filled with glowing screens and humming devices. Dr. Imani Rao, one of Earth's leading scientists, turned to greet her. "Commander Grant, you're just in time to see it," the scientist said with excitement. Amelia raised an eyebrow. "See what, Doctor?" Imani grinned and pointed to a strange device in the center of the room. It looked like a sphere made of silver threads spinning gently in the air. "We call it the Echo Drive." "Echo Drive," Amelia repeated. "Sounds poetic. It is, Imani said proudly. It's built from the same technology we used in our communication arrays, but upgraded. It takes human laughter, voice frequencies, and emotional tone patterns and converts them into a multi-spectrum pulse. When activated, it sends a wave that disrupts Zorathian sensors and AI systems. Amelia blinked in surprise. You mean laughter can jam their technology? Imani nodded. Exactly. Their machines can't interpret emotion. Our signals confuse their data patterns. It's not just static, it's joy turned into chaos. Amelia smiled. So we fight back with happiness. Not just happiness, Imani said softly. Hope. Days later, the first test of the Echo Drive began. In the orbit of Mars, the human ship Dauntless powered up the prototype. The crew gathered nervously as the sphere began to glow. Ready the pulse, said the captain. On my mark. 3, 2, 1, fire. A burst of invisible energy rippled through space. It spread like a wave, invisible to the human eye but strong enough to reach hundreds of kilometers. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reports started coming in. Zorathian drones on the border just froze, one operator said. Their systems shut down completely. Are they destroyed? Another asked. No, just confused. Their sensors can't process what they're seeing. The captain laughed. It worked. And just like that, the first victory of the counterattack was born. Not with missiles or bombs, but with laughter turned into science. Soon, the Echo Drive was installed on every major human ship. Each fleet now carried not only weapons, but also transmitters that broadcast laughter, songs, and joyful noise during combat. It was psychological warfare, but also something deeper. It reminded every human soldier what they were fighting for: life, unity, and the right to laugh freely. When the Zorathian Empire launched its next invasion fleet, humanity was ready. The battle began near the moons of Jupiter. A swarm of Zorathian warships jumped into orbit, their engines glowing red. Admiral Kareth himself commanded the fleet from his massive dreadnought Iron Flame. Crush them, he ordered. No mercy. But when his ships closed in, something unexpected happened. Human signals began to flood the channels. At first, Kareth thought it was interference. But then he heard it, laughter. Loud, endless laughter echoing through every frequency. Along with it came strange sounds. Cheering crowds, music, and even jokes translated into Zorathian speech. One of his officers shouted, "Admiral, our sensors are malfunctioning." "We can't lock targets," another said. "Navigation systems are looping. Sir, the data keeps repeating phrases like ha 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 and try again." Kareth slammed his clawed hand on the console. What is happening? But the laughter kept coming, stronger now. Even some of the Zorathian soldiers began to chuckle without understanding why. It was contagious. Something about it made their fear fade, and that terrified Kareth even more. Meanwhile, the human fleet moved like lightning. Using the confusion, they darted between enemy ships, firing precise shots at weak points. Explosions lit up the dark sky. On board the Dauntless, Commander Amelia watched the display screens fill with dancing signals. Every burst of laughter created ripples in the enemy's systems. "Keep transmitting," she shouted. "Let them hear us." Her communications officer grinned. "Yes, ma'am." "Turning up the volume." Through the stars, thousands of voices laughed together. Soldiers, engineers, civilians, even children from Earth. The combined frequency formed a wave of unity that no weapon could stop. Inside the Iron Flame, Kareth struggled to restore order. "Mute their signals. Shut down the channels." "Sir, we can't," his crew shouted back. "Their laughter is in our systems." Kareth's screen flickered, and suddenly, a holographic image appeared, a smiling human face. It was a recording of Captain Amelia Grant from months ago saying, "You'll find out soon enough, Admiral. We have a very contagious sense of humor." Then the screen glitched, replaying the same line again and again. Kareth's hands trembled with anger. "Destroy them." But his ships couldn't fire. Their targeting computers kept showing cartoonish images, laughing emojis, spinning faces, and bursts of color. To the humans, it was more than a joke. It was proof that joy could overcome fear. Hours later, the battle ended. Dozens of Zorathian ships were disabled. Not one human vessel was lost. When the humans sent a message of peace to the surviving Zorathians, many of them didn't respond with hate. They simply looked stunned. One Zorathian pilot whispered to his crewmate, "They fight with laughter." How can we fight that? Back on Earth, the victory was celebrated across every city. Crowds filled the streets waving flags and singing. On the giant screens, footage of the battle played again and again. The moment the enemy's warships froze as laughter filled the stars. It was called the Day of Echo. Children laughed. Adults cried with pride, and even the oldest veterans smiled. Humanity had proven something no empire had ever understood. That courage and happiness were stronger than fear and control. Admiral Kareth returned to the Zorathian capital in silence. His fleet was damaged, his pride wounded. When he knelt before Emperor Thalrak, the hall was filled with whispers. The Emperor glared down at him. "You failed me again." Kareth bowed lower. "They are not like others, my lord. They use emotion as a weapon. Their laughter, it spreads." Thalrak's voice was a low growl. "Then we must destroy their emotion. End their hope. Prepare the full armada." Kareth rose slowly. "As you command." But deep inside, a quiet thought began to grow. What if laughter was not weakness? What if it was strength? He dismissed the thought quickly. Yet it stayed with him, echoing in the back of his mind. In the human command center, Captain Amelia stood before her crew, looking at the stars through the viewport. The war wasn't over, but hope was brighter than ever. "They tried to silence us," she said softly, "and we made the galaxy laugh instead. Let's keep it that way." Her crew nodded. Around them, screens showed the rebuilt fleets, the new echo drives, and messages from every colony, all filled with laughter. The counterattack had begun. And it wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about teaching the universe something the Empire had never understood, that laughter was not weakness. It was power, and humanity had plenty to share. The Zorathian Empire was in chaos. Inside the shining towers of the Imperial Palace, panic spread like fire. The laughter waves sent by humans had not only reached the front lines, but had now begun to echo across the Zorathian homeworld itself. Citizens were confused. At first, they thought it was just noise from human broadcasts. But then something strange happened. They began to laugh too. Softly at first, like whispers in the dark. Then louder, uncontrolled, joyful. It was not a sound the Empire had heard in centuries. The Emperor sat in his grand hall, surrounded by advisors and guards. His voice thundered through the chamber. "Enough of this madness. The humans are spreading disorder. Silence every channel. Destroy their signal sources at once." But it was already too late. The laughter had become more than sound. It had become a feeling. Zorathians, long trained to obey without question, now began to wonder why they had been living in fear for so long. One soldier whispered to another, "Why are we fighting people who only laugh?" The other shrugged. "Because we were told to." Then, without realizing it, they both chuckled, a small, honest laugh that neither could stop. Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, the human defense fleet was preparing for the Empire's largest attack in history. Hundreds of Zorathian warships were gathering at the edge of the Sol system. Captain Mira Torres stood on the command bridge of the HSS Dawnlight, humanity's flagship. The air was tense, but her crew was smiling. They were ready and still laughing. "Status report?" she asked calmly. "All systems green, Captain," said Lieutenant Harlan. "Echo drives charged, communication stable. The joke streams are running across all frequencies." Mira grinned. "Good. Let's make them smile, even if they don't want to." The strategy was bold. Instead of hiding from the enemy, humans broadcasted laughter, songs, and funny messages across every open channel. Music filled space like light. It was cheerful, unpredictable, and strangely powerful. When the Zorathian fleet arrived, their commanders were greeted not with battle cries but with humor. "Welcome to the Sol system," one human voice said over the speakers. "Please fasten your seatbelts and prepare to be entertained." The confused Zorathians hesitated. Their targeting systems flickered again, jammed by the frequency pulses hidden within the laughter waves. Admiral Kareth growled, "Ignore their noise, fire all weapons." A wave of plasma beams shot forward, but half of them missed. The human signal interference disrupted the ship's guidance systems. On human ships, laughter and cheering grew louder. "Nice shot, everyone," Mira said proudly. "Let's give them something to remember." The HSS Dawnlight released a massive energy burst from its echo drive. The wave rippled across the battlefield, carrying with it a mix of human laughter, jokes, and the faint sound of applause. Zorathian systems froze, screens filled with strange human faces smiling, waving, and laughing together. For machines that had never processed emotion, the data was overwhelming. Back on the Imperial homeworld, the Emperor was furious. His advisors tried to calm him. "Your Majesty, the fleet is losing coordination. The human signals are causing widespread confusion. Even our AIs are malfunctioning." The Emperor slammed his staff against the ground. "Then destroy them. Send the dreadnoughts. Burn their world if you must." The words echoed through the grand chamber, but no one moved. The guards looked at each other. The commanders hesitated. For the first time, fear of the Emperor had faded. One of his closest generals finally spoke, his voice trembling. "Your Majesty, maybe we should talk to them. Maybe." "Silence," the Emperor roared. "They mock us with laughter. We will not—" But he was interrupted by a strange sound, a quiet laugh. It came from the corner of the room, one of the guards trying to hold it in. The sound spread like a spark. Soon the entire hall was filled with soft chuckles. The Emperor stared in disbelief. What is the meaning of this? The guard dropped his weapon and smiled. "It feels good to laugh, Your Majesty." And with that, everything the Emperor built, the control, the fear, the silence, began to crumble. In space, the humans pushed forward. Allied ships from other species joined them, some curious, some inspired. They had never seen such a strange kind of warfare. One alien commander said to Mira over the comms, "Your people are strange. You fight with joy instead of anger." Mira laughed. "It's what we do best." Together, the Allied fleets advanced. The Zorathian formations broke apart. Some ships turned back, others surrendered. Captain Mira opened a wide transmission to the enemy. "This is Captain Mira Torres of the human fleet. You don't have to fight anymore. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to remind you how to live." Silence followed. Then, unexpectedly, a Zorathian voice responded. "We don't understand your ways, human, but your laughter, it makes us feel something we forgot long ago." "That's hope," Mira said softly. "It's not a weapon. It's who we are." As battles ended and fleets surrendered, the laughter continued to echo across the stars. The humans sent food and aid to captured crews. They treated them with kindness, not revenge. Reporters on Earth began calling it the War of Laughter. Every human, from children to old explorers, joined in the global broadcast of joy. In the Imperial capital, the people finally took to the streets, not with weapons but with smiles. Statues of the Emperor stood tall in the city squares, but now children were climbing them, laughing, playing, and singing. The Emperor watched from his balcony as his world changed before his eyes. All his armies, all his power, defeated not by force, but by happiness. He whispered to himself. They broke the silence, and with laughter. Days later, peace messages began flowing between the two civilizations. Human diplomats offered a new beginning. No punishment, no humiliation, just cooperation. "Let's build something better together," said one of the human ambassadors. "The galaxy is big enough for all of us." Many Zorathians accepted. Others were still cautious, but deep down something had changed in them. They had tasted what it felt like to smile again. Captain Mira stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the stars shine peacefully outside the window. The war was ending. Her crew was tired but happy. They had faced the greatest empire in the galaxy and won, not through hate, but through the power of joy and unity. "Captain," said Lieutenant Harlan, smiling, "do you think they'll ever forget this?" Mira shook her head. "No, and neither will we." As the HSS Dawnlight moved through the quiet stars, a soft recording played across every ship, the sound of humanity laughing together. It wasn't loud or mocking. It was warm, real, and full of life. That sound, once seen as strange, now carried a new meaning across the galaxy. A reminder that sometimes courage comes not from anger, but from the heart's ability to smile in the face of darkness. And so the mighty Zorathian Empire fell, not destroyed but transformed. The galaxy had never been quieter, and never more alive. After months of battles, skirmishes, and daring maneuvers, the Zorathian Empire was no longer feared the way it had been. Ships that once ruled entire systems now floated idle or returned home, empty of both anger and purpose. Humanity had done the impossible. They had faced the greatest empire in the galaxy, and their weapon was laughter. Captain Mira Torres watched from the bridge of the HSS Dawnlight as fleets of humans and allied species moved through the stars. Her crew was busy repairing systems, sending aid and broadcasting messages of peace. She felt a calm happiness she had never known in all her years of service. Beside her, Lieutenant Harlan turned from the communications console. "Captain, the Zorathians are responding. Their ships are docking with our stations. They want to talk." Mira's lips curved into a smile. "It's time," she said. "Let's listen first." On the largest docking platform of the United Human Fleet, a Zorathian ambassador stepped onto the neutral station. He looked nervous, his armored posture rigid, but there was a glimmer of curiosity in his eyes. Captain Amelia Grant, now serving as liaison for interstellar diplomacy, approached him. "Welcome," she said warmly. "We are happy to meet you." The ambassador looked around at the bustling humans, their laughter and music filling the air. Slowly, he removed his helmet, revealing scales that shimmered with green and gold light. "We do not understand fully," he admitted. "Your actions, your laughter, it is not what we expected. Yet we feel it. It is peaceful," Amelia nodded. "That is the point. Laughter is not weakness. It is strength. It reminds us of who we are and what we fight for. Not hatred, not control, but life itself." He hesitated, then bowed slightly. "Perhaps we were wrong." On Earth, celebrations began as news of the Empire's surrender spread. Cities overflowed with cheering crowds. On Luna Station, children ran through corridors of stars and silver panels, waving banners with human faces laughing. The sound of music and happiness echoed from planet to planet, reaching even the most distant colonies. For humans, this was more than victory. It was proof of their spirit. They had survived fear, destruction, and uncertainty. They had faced a civilization that had tried to break them, and they had responded not with anger but with joy. In classrooms on New Earth, teachers played recordings of Captain Amelia's first transmission. Children laughed as they listened, learning a lesson older than any history book. Courage is born from the heart, not weapons. Even the former Zorathian citizens began to embrace this new way of life. On the capital world, markets opened for the first time in years without fear. Families walked freely, children played, and music filled the air. People shared stories of humanity's laughter, trying to imitate it at first awkwardly, then more naturally. One elderly Zorathian man, long a general in the imperial armies, stood in the city square with a small group of children. He chuckled as he tried to mimic the human way of laughing. "It feels strange," he said to the children, "but nice, very nice." The children laughed, guiding him, and together they echoed the sounds that had once terrified their leaders. In that simple act, centuries of fear began to fade. Back in space, the fleets of humans continued their work. They helped repair damaged systems, delivered medical supplies, and provided guidance for rebuilding worlds. The war had been won, but the work of peace had just begun. Captain Mira watched a young human engineer operate an echo drive to repair a Zorathian ship. The boy hummed a cheerful tune, and the drive responded perfectly, its hum merging with the boy's melody. Mira smiled. "This is what victory looks like," she said softly. "Not just survival, but rebuilding together." Lieutenant Harlan nodded. "We've done more than win a battle. We've changed the galaxy." Mira turned to the viewport, staring at the stars stretching endlessly before them. "Yes, and laughter will carry us even further." On Earth, a monument was erected in the capital city to honor the courage of all humans who had fought. It depicted two hands, one human, one Zorathian, holding a glowing sphere of light. The plaque beneath read, "They tried to silence us. We responded with laughter. Citizens, young and old, visited daily. They brought flowers, toys, and small tokens of joy. Each visitor added their own laughter to the monument, creating a sound that traveled beyond the city, into orbit, and across the galaxy. Captain Amelia's family visited the monument. Her younger brother Ethan looked up at the shining sphere. "She really did it," he said quietly. Their mother smiled. She reminded everyone what it means to be human, that courage and laughter can change the stars themselves. In the stars beyond the Sol system, alien civilizations spoke of humanity with newfound respect. Traders, explorers, and diplomats shared stories of how humans had faced the Empire and emerged victorious without resorting to hate or destruction. One alien diplomat turned to a colleague. "They fight differently," he said. "They do not destroy. They unite. Their laughter, it carries power even we cannot fully measure." His colleague nodded. "Yes, perhaps we could learn from them," and so humanity became a teacher of hope, showing that strength could be gentle and victory could be joyful. Years later, Captain Amelia Grant stood on the bridge of the HSS Dawnlight, older now with silver streaks in her hair. She looked at a galaxy slowly healing from war, at children playing in colonies once filled with fear, and at Zorathians who had learned to smile again. Lieutenant Harlan approached her quietly. "Captain, the galaxy is finally at peace," Amelia nodded. "Peace is only possible when everyone understands it. And laughter. Laughter reminds us why peace matters." They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the soft hum of the echo drives and the faint laughter echoing across communications. Even years later, the sound still carried meaning: courage, defiance, unity, hope. In classrooms, humans told the story of the Empire and the laughter that changed it. Children learned that bravery was not only in battles but also in staying true to yourself, even when facing impossible odds. Teachers spoke of Captain Amelia, of Mira, of every human who refused to surrender their joy. "Why did humans laugh?" one child asked. A teacher smiled. "Because they knew that some things like courage and joy cannot be destroyed. And when you share them, they grow stronger, even across the stars." On distant worlds, Zorathians, once proud and unyielding, laughed again. Their children played, their citizens shared stories, and even former soldiers remembered how strange humans had been. Small, fragile, and yet unstoppable because of their hearts. Admiral Kareth, older now and wiser, stood in a quiet garden watching the stars. He thought back to the first battle, to the laughter that had filled the void. For decades he had chased fear and control, only to learn that it was not fear that conquered, but joy. He smiled softly. "They were right," he whispered. "Laughter is power, and humans, they have it in abundance." Across the galaxy, a quiet truth became clear. Weapons could break ships, plasma could burn worlds, and fleets could crush systems, but no force could conquer a people who refused to surrender their spirit. Humans had fought the greatest empire, survived its attacks, and responded not with anger but with laughter. That laughter had changed hearts, shifted minds, and rewritten the story of the stars. It was unstoppable, and it was only the beginning. Captain Mira Torres looked at her crew one last time, before stepping onto a new mission, a mission not of war, but of exploration and teaching. "Let's see how far laughter can go," she said with a grin. Her crew cheered. In unison, their laughter filled the bridge. Then the ship, then the stars beyond, and somewhere, in the darkness of space, human joy spread like light, touching every world, every life, and every heart it could reach. The galaxy would never forget the humans who laughed in the face of the Empire, and in doing so, showed that courage, hope, and joy could be stronger than any weapon.